Okay guys, so first off, hi, my name is Aaron, in case you guys are new. Probably are. But okay, so let me start off by saying, I've been having some issues recently with making videos, mainly because I am limited on like clips to put in these type of videos, because of course, when I'm talking about types of videos like I'm making today, right now, it's not interesting to just look at my face the whole time, you know? Some people put clips in the video, and so it's more interesting. You could see a visual representation of what I'm talking about, but I'm kind of limited on that because my phone and computer almost got hacked because I was trying to get some clips for this video. I already filmed this video once, but I had to delete it and I'm starting from scratch. Because mainly I was originally going to, of course, make this video and then put some visual representation with some like clips I need to add in to make it a little more interesting, but that did not really work out because, again, my phone almost got hacked because I had to go on one of those websites, if you know what I mean, to get the clips that I needed. But as we all know, that those websites are not safe. They're really not safe. It's very easy for some stuff to happen. I tried to go on one of the websites, and then I went to Race to the Edge to get some clips for this video, and all of a sudden, like, loud beeping, like beep beep, like through my whole phone. It was really scary. So I kind of got scared because I don't know if you guys know, but my Instagram got hacked one time, and it was honestly really scary. I know I'm being really over dramatic, okay? But so ever since then, I feel like it was a learning experience. I'm not the type of person to say like everything happens for a reason, but I kind of do think maybe my Instagram got hacked for a reason, because I would always be all like so comfortable with everyone online to the point where it wasn't safe, and obviously I got tricked by someone on Instagram who now is living in my Instagram. And so be safe out there, guys, okay? So ever since then, I really has been really cautious about like who I talk to online or like stuff like that. So I just don't feel comfortable going on one of those websites right now. That's one thing, but also because the website wasn't working. It wasn't working, okay? Just that beeping noise kept going on, and then it wouldn't let me go on anything. And also too, the website I went on did not have like half of the seasons of Race to the Edge. So I'm sorry that I'm rambling on. I know you guys don't care, but in case you guys are wondering, like, where's the visual representation in this video? That's why. So I'm gonna get some clips that I find on different places to kind of put in, so it's not just my face the entire time. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. But that reminds me, I haven't even talked about what this video really is about. I know the title is obviously kind of like, okay, like what theory are you talking about, okay? Because I couldn't put the whole theory like in the title because it's like way too long. But yeah, so of course this is a Race to the Edge style video, but not only that, it is also a video about Viggo Grimborn, one of my iconic favorite childhood villains, and Hiccup, of course, our main protagonist. We all know him. So yes, it's a video about these two. And no, I'm not going to be going through like every single time they interacted, because like that's a hell of a lot. But if you guys are curious what this theory actually is, yes, there is a popular theory. It was mainly popular when Race to the Edge first came out, but yes, there is a theory out there that is really popular on Reddit, that the whole thing about Viggo's like motive, I guess, is that he's actually really in love with Hiccup, and this whole scheme is like to try to get rid of Astrid so he could be with him. No, I'm not kidding. This is an actual theory. No, I did not just make this up. So I'm gonna be okay, so I decided to make this video because I heard lots of people say like there's not that much like Race to the Edge content on YouTube, no one talks about it, and I honestly agree. Like, I tried to see, because I wasn't even gonna make this video. I wanted to like see about it. I wanted to see if anyone in the world made this video yet, and no one has made a video on this yet, so I guess I'm the first one. Unless I just didn't find the video. But yeah, so I did a lot of research for this, and I haven't seen Race to the Edge in a long time, since it came out pretty much. Since it ended in like 2018, I haven't really seen any episodes. I don't really rewatch it that much, but I decided to rewatch every episode that Viggo was in. and it was an adventure. I forgot how much I love this man. Yes, I'm one of those simps for the villain. I am one of those people. And so, going into this video, I also did not believe this theory. I thought it was interesting, fun to talk about. It was interesting that people came up with this theory, but did I believe it? No, I did not. I thought it was kind of like, oh, no, whatever. Okay. But as I did research for this video, and as I rewatched like a lot of these scenes, now knowing this theory, there is guys, there is a frightening amount of evidence that this might be true. Like, I wish I was joking. I really do wish I was, but I'm not. Okay, I'm not. It's actually kind of frightening how much evidence backs up this theory. Okay, so I'll get more into it as the video goes on, but do I think this theory is true? No, only because I know this isn't the writer's intent, so like, that kind of sums it up too. If it was like a hidden thing, then maybe, but I had a feeling it's not the writer's intent. They just wanted to make Grimmel really creepy, and they really wanted him to like get into the mind of Hiccup, but I don't think it was like advances towards him or anything. But in case you guys are curious about what's going on, what's happening, I'm gonna talk to you about it. So in case you guys are curious about all the evidence, I got you. So yes, we'll be going through a lot of episodes, and again, sorry if there's not that much visual representation that you would like in this video. So this video could be kind of like a background thing, you know, do your homework, whatever. Hope you guys enjoy. So as we all know that Viggo's first episode was in the episode Mason and Talons. So of course the thing you have to know about Viggo is that he is very smart. He's smart, okay? He's one of the smartest villains in probably the entire franchise. Not only that, but he also talks a lot. He talks a lot, and then sometimes he leaves you thinking like, what did you just say?
They say there are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true. The other is to refuse to believe what is. Maces and talons.
And that is probably the first scene that we see him in. He's really mysterious because we don't see him with Hiccup until much like later on. Like, he's like really hidden. He talks to the other characters. He has been talked about for a while until the time we reveal that he was the main cause of the Dragon Hunters. Like, he's like the chief of the Dragon Hunters technically. So it was a big thing. It was really scary, very creepy. But that's basically the first thing that he was in, was him like talking in like a metaphor, which he does a lot because, as you guys know, he's obsessed with the game Masons and Talons, hence the name of this episode. But Mason and Talons is basically just like chess for Vikings, and so he is obsessed with that game, and he uses a lot of metaphors and strategies through that game. And eventually Hiccup kind of catches on to this, but obviously not at first, because like, what the hell is this game? Like, what is happening? And this kind of makes him even creepier because, of course, he seems like he knows everything. He sees everything, okay? And we all know that Hiccup has always been able to defeat the villain because it's always brains over bronze. All the people he usually fights are dumbasses, minus Grimmel, but this was before Grimmel. But they were always dumbasses, but they always use their strength to outnumber Hiccup because Hiccup is a scrawny little dude. So, of course, we all know that Viggo is very different, because not only is he strong, he is also probably equally as smart as Hiccup, if not more smart, so pretty scary. So, as I mentioned before, in this episode, he mainly talks in like a metaphor kind of sense, but like, of course, mentioning the game Masons and Talons, and he has Heather tries to go undercover and pretends that she's working for Viggo to kind of see what he's up to and to kind of actually meet him. The same goes with Dagger, and Dagger kind of is working. It's a long story. This isn't about the whole story. This isn't about Dagger. This isn't about that. Okay, I'll just skip over that part. So, of course, like I said before, at this point, Hiccup has yet to meet Viggo in the storyline, but Viggo already managed to outsmart Hiccup by stealing the Dragon Eye. How did he do that? Who the hell knows? He is a mastermind, okay? And basically Viggo was already kind of getting under Hiccup's skin, which is really impressive. They haven't even met yet. And of course then Hiccup of course tried to catch on to Viggo's critical thinking in a sense. So the first time that Hiccup actually meets Vigo is, of course, when Vigo is outsmarting Hiccup, which is, again, very impressive. So Hiccup was planning on rescuing Heather, but then saw that it was just Vigo posing as Heather underneath a blanket. If you guys remember that from the Masons and Talons episode, that was the first time Hiccup and Vigo has ever officially meet. But at that point, Vigo already knows Hiccup's name, which is, again, really creepy. So I feel like a reason why this theory became popular, especially in the beginning of all this, is mainly because, like, Vigo always kind of gave Hiccup, like, special treatment in a way. I know that sounds weird, but, like, that's the first thing, like, as I was rewatching the show, I put down kind of, like, bullet points on, like, evidence to kind of back this theory up. And the first bullet point that I kind of put down was I do think that he does give Hiccup special treatment in a way, which, again, it's weird for, like, a villain to give the heroine a special treatment. It's just because he never does, even to his brother. Like, Vigo has never initially tried to, like, actually fight Hiccup, and even in this scene, he gives Hiccup a 5-second head start when he was about to chase after him, which I found kind of funny. Of course, he doesn't do it, his guards chase after him. But I do find it honestly kind of funny because there's times where we see Vigo, like, choking his brother and, like, yelling at people and snapping, but with Hiccup, he mainly just, like, talks to him, which I find kind of funny. He, like, smooth talks him, and again, he's also, some might say he's actually smarter than Hiccup, which is like, damn. And even in the first episode, this is one of the first times we actually see Hiccup, like, deal with, not consequences, but we kind of see him, like, get outsmarted physically, because he gets shot with Vigo's flight mare that he has, and then that, of course, makes Hiccup freeze, and Toothless, of course, and so then Vigo was able to get the dragon eye from Hiccup's satchel that was attached to Toothless, like, so slowly, so smoothly, because, of course, Hiccup and Toothless were frozen. So, again, he is very smart. I shouldn't even say smart, but he definitely, like, outsmarted Hiccup, and as we know, Hiccup and Toothless are extremely fast. They never get hurt, even though there's times where they probably should have gotten hurt, they did not get hurt, and Vigo managed to, like, stop them physically on the first try, which is very impressive. So after the Mason and Talons episode, he doesn't officially really return until the Buffalo Soldier episode, which is in season 3. And I know most of you guys probably know the Buffalo Soldier episode for being, like, the Hickstrud episode. And yes, it is all the Hickstrud episode. But I'm not gonna lie, I kind of forgot that Vigo was even in this episode until I did my research. Because, like, again, when I think of this episode, I think of Hickstrud. I don't think of Vigo. But yes, Vigo, of course, was in this episode, and he actually had a big time with the plot, okay? He had a big thing with the plot in this episode. So in case you guys are curious, yes, this episode, I'm going to go through a brief overview of this episode. So in case you forgot about this episode, yes, this episode consists of Astrid getting sick from this disease called the Scourge of Odin, and the only cure is from this dragon called the Buffalo Dragon, which people thought this dragon was extinct, like hunt to extinction. But then, of course, being the masterminds they are, they found out there was actually one dragon left, okay? Or one dragon they at least could find that's left. And if they don't, and they realize that the Buffalo Dragon, you have to drink its, like, saliva in order to, like, cure the person who has this disease. And of course, if you don't cure the disease by 3 days, the person dies. So of course, they were kind of racing against time here, trying to find this dragon while also trying to, get the saliva. It was a big thing, okay? So finally, when I think everything is good, everything is fine and dandy, they got the dragon, they have Astrid, they have the saliva, everything's okay. And then of course, all of a sudden, a net went on top of the Buffalo Dragon, and then lo and behold, Vigo pops up, who is of course like, get the hell away from my dragon, it's mine. So again, Vigo is freaking a crazy mastermind, but I think the reason why this episode is so significant is because he knew that, like, he definitely had a feeling. This is another reason, this is another bullet point I kind of put down. It's talked about later on in the series, but I put this bullet point down right here just in case. But yes, I definitely do think that he knew something was going on between Hiccup and Astrid, which is why, like, because he got the buffalo dragon, and of course they were like, don't take the dragon, don't hunt it, don't trade it, whatever. But then Vigo was like, I'm gonna take this dragon, and then your girl is gonna die. Like, he knew that was gonna happen, but he also knew that Hiccup would probably do anything for Astrid, and so he was like, okay, give me the solution to the Scorch of Odin to help my freaking girl, and then you could have the dragon. And then of course he was fine with it, you know? And so of course, like, stuff happens, whatever. But again, the reason I mentioned this episode is because Astrid has a big part in this theory, as I mentioned in the beginning, because again, people think that he is mainly trying to kill off Astrid, because it is kind of weird how, like Hiccup mentioned in another episode, that like if you want to like stop the invasion or whatever, you have to kill the leader, which is why you should try to kill Vigo, because he's the chief. So once the chief is dead, then the whole like gang kind of fades away. And of course, as we know, the Hiccup is the leader of the Dragon Riders. So if Hiccup gets dead, then like it's kind of a done deal at that point. It depends, because Astrid is also pretty badass, but that's the thing. If he kills off Astrid, it like won't really make that much of a difference, I guess. And so for him doing that, it was kind of just like weird and pointless. But again, another bullet point that I put down for this is not only that, but this is a very, very obvious one, but it's of course that he calls Hiccup my dear. And like, as I was rewatching these episodes, I noticed that he like only called Hiccup that. He only called Hiccup and Heather that. He, from my understanding, he's never called anyone else that, which I find funny. Like, he called Heather my dear, and he calls Hiccup my dear. He also calls Hiccup my dear boy, which he says a few times, including in this episode.
Oh, I beg to differ, my dear Hiccup. My dear Hiccup. The difference, my dear Hiccup. As I said, my dear Hiccup. Poor dear Hiccup.
So, yes, it is very... It's a lot, okay? So there's a lot. That's probably the main thing, that he talks to Hiccup like they're almost buddies in a sense, which is like kind of funny.
No, don't be like that, Hiccup. What did I tell you about ruthlessness?
And another random thing that I put down, that was the reason I find pretty funny, is because I put down that like how you're gonna see this, like, 'cause this happens a freaking lot in the series, is how much Vigo compliments Hiccup. Like, he compliments him so much for someone who's supposed to hate him.
Like, what do you want, Vigo? To compliment you, Hiccup.
And I know some people would be like, oh, just like a snarky compliment, it's not really meaningful. I don't know, like, I don't know, it's weird, okay? It is really strange, because, and not only that, but there's also been a lot of times where he, every single time they're about to separate, he pretty much always says that he's gonna miss Hiccup. And again, I know some people are gonna argue saying it's just like a snarky comeback, it's not like a genuine thing, and maybe that's true, but come on, it's one of those things where if you say it every single time, it's like, come on, you don't know what else to say. Like you don't want to, you don't want to just leave. Like, what the heck? Like, I don't know. That's like one thing that I definitely noticed. And of course he says it in the Buffalo episode before they leave. He's like, I'm really gonna miss our time together, my boy Hiccup. I'm like, okay. Like, okay then. Whatever, bro. I think it's also kind of important to note that, like, whenever he's talking to the gang, we always see him kind of talk. Like, when he's talking to the gang as a whole, he only really mentions Hiccup, which I find funny. Like, he never really says, like, hello, Dragon Riders. Like, he barely ever says that. He mainly just, like, talks to Hiccup. He says, like, my dear Hiccup, hello. He just kind of talks like that. But it's funny, because he knows the other characters' names. Like, I know he knows Fishlegs and Astrid and Snothout. I don't know if he knows the twins, but he knows their names. Like, he says their names sometimes. But I do find that kind of funny, though. How when he's talking to the Dragon Riders, he's like, my dear Hiccup, and I'm like, okay, Dagger. He's not Dagger. Okay, Vigo. Okay, I see where you're at. And also at the end of the episode, when he was leaving the island, because of course Hiccup decided to save Astrid's ass, so of course they made the trade. So then Vigo kept the Buffalo Dragon to trade, and you know, he's a savvy businessman, what can I say? So yes, he keeps the dragon, and then as they were going off, Vigo kind of complains actually that it was too easy. He liked the banter, which is kind of basically what he's saying. He likes fighting with Hiccup. Fun. So in the episode Last Auction Heroes, Vigo captures the gang and then tries to sell Toothless in like one of those dragon auctions, and then he even wants Hiccup to watch it happen. Like, okay. Which again, I feel like it's like, dude. Like, okay, there's a shocking amount of fanfics that have a premise of just Vigo torturing Hiccup, which I am not a fan of. No, I do not watch them, but stay off of Archive. Stay off of Archive of our own, okay? It's not wholesome at all. So I honestly feel like in the episode Defender of the Wing Part 1 is where this theory honestly really started to boil, because like one of Vigo's arrows hit Astrid in the leg, causing her to limp, and then in a true like you hurt my girlfriend and you'll pay fashion, Hiccup gets very pissed at Vigo. So he eventually confronts Vigo after Vigo invited him on like an island alone. But then of course Hiccup did not trust Vigo, so of course he got Heather and Astrid to like circle him around. And so now for like of course the millionth time he just compliments Hiccup. And I know it's meant to be like, as I mentioned before, like a sarcastic kind of compliment, but there hasn't been a villain in this franchise that's been so chummy with the hero. Like, it's honestly impressive. And of course, it's like a common thing. It's also a common theme for Vigo to like over-explain himself and Hiccup to basically not care at all. So Vigo then compliments Hiccup on his sense of humor. Like, what else are you gonna compliment him on?
I accept your surrender.
Oh, it's good to see your sense of humor is still intact.
So then, in a very, snarky turn of events, Vigo then mockingly brings up Astrid's leg, and of course it has never been specified exactly how Vigo knows about Hiccup and Astrid being a thing, even though at this point they're not. Wait, are they? No. I got this one confused of season 4 finale. Okay, I was really confused for a second. I was like, they're not a thing at this point. No, okay, they're not a thing at this point. But he probably knows some chemistry going on. Okay, some chemistry happening. And like, and of course Vigo is known for being very like observant. So maybe after the whole Buffalo Soldier incident, he was able to kind of catch on to this. Or maybe he was able to catch on because like, he can see through Hiccup, like he was Hiccup. There should have been a Vigo prequel show. I would have watched. And he also says Hiccup is like way too good, and then that's gonna bite him in the ass later. Hiccup, you should have listened to the sexy villain dude. Do you not know what happened to your dad in about 2 years? Yeah. Think about that. So then he was in the episode Dire Straits, where the gang attacks Vigo's island once more, and then Viker tells Vigo that the dragon riders won't be stopped until every dragon they captured is freed, which is very true. Like, they are not gonna stop. So Vigo decides to capture a dragon, Vigo decides to capture a dragon that he knows even Hiccup won't be able to free. Very smart. So Hiccup also randomly finds out that Vigo was like planning. He figured out what Vigo was planning and then begins to blame himself for not realizing anything quicker, basically. So another thing to back up this theory, I guess, is because like how Vigo likes to get into Hiccup's head a lot. That isn't a really good compelling theory because like I guess most villains try to do that. But he has like a special interest in Hiccup. I'm just gonna say that. Like, he really does. So then in the episode, or in the first part of the episode Shell Shock, we see Hiccup discuss the plan to take down Vigo with like the Burke villagers, and then he honestly got kind of mad and offended when Ruff accused people of thinking that Vigo is actually way smarter than Hiccup, because Hiccup's already small as it is, okay? He has nothing going for him except for his smarts. So come on, at least give our boy that, okay? Please. Like, bro is getting more and more frustrated by the second, bro. By the second. So later on, Hiccup then finds Vigo broken in a ditch, and then Vigo says, and I quote, "I can't believe these words are coming out of my mouth, but I am overjoyed to see you." Vigo, we heard you say that a bunch of times. Okay? It's not your first rodeo, okay? We heard you say how much you love seeing Hiccup. I'm sorry. So also rewatching this episode, the way that he like looks at Hiccup, I really wish I could find like a recording of this or a screenshot. I'm gonna try my best to find one, because the way he looks here, like, I see why people have a crush on Vigo. Like, come on. So later we see Viker waving a white flag, and then Hiccup and Astrid did not believe what he's actually trying to say, because apparently he had the same sob story that Vigo told him, but Viker literally says, "Which one of us has more of an interest in you?" Like, you could have said it any other way. Stop trying to make this theory a thing. Please. So now, since Vigo is of course a stalker and is obsessed with this one-legged teen, he found him alone on an island, and then he promises to give Hiccup the Dragon Eye if they were working together. So in the finale of the two-parter, the gang decides that they can't trust Vigo and then lock him up, even though he begs for forgiveness. So later on, the Edge actually catches on fire, and then Vigo is trapped in their prison on Edge, but Hiccup actually comes out of nowhere, and then he actually releases Vigo, and Vigo looks genuinely touched. Not gonna lie, he was genuinely touched.
Oh, Hiccup! You came all the way back to rescue me. I'm honored.
Yeah, don't be.
And then he of course asked Hiccup once more if he would allow him to help him, and finally, under pressure and being so fed up, Hiccup finally allowed it.
Well, you'll be glad you returned. I can help, if you will allow me.
So this is probably one of the most popular Vigo scenes, or Vigo and Hiccup scenes, I guess. Is like when they were flying, Vigo was basically like blabbering on as usual about Mason and Talons because he's obsessed. And Hiccup literally looked like he wanted to die, but he finally starts listening when Vigo mentions Astrid in a very like mocking way.
Relationships can be complicated, am I right? To be in love with a girl who is your partner in battle? Whew, not sure how I would balance such a precarious situation. It can certainly cloud the mind.
And so again, he's like the only villain in the franchise who actually tried to toy with like Hiccup's emotions by bringing up his love life. Like, no one cared about that, but it's kind of funny how he did. Like, he saw the chemistry that they had together, and like he had to get in on the action. I'm kidding. So this is actually evidence, not evidence, but this is like a big part of the theory that I probably should mention if you're curious about this theory. And so okay, so going back to like kind of like the beginning, is that people believe, like at first when Astrid got her leg shot, and then, or during the Buffalo incident, like those two instances when like she was on the verge of dying, mainly the Buffalo incident, because that one Vigo was like actually trying to kill off Astrid by taking the Buffalo that he knew she needed to survive. And so he took it away. And again, this is the person who believes the theory talking. I'm not just saying this, I'm not just making this up. This is a popular part of the theory, so I might as well bring this up. But there was actually a part where people believe he was doing all that because he, of course, wanted to kill off Astrid. Then Hiccup will be single. But then at this point of the storyline, whatever, at this point, he's obviously bringing up Astrid in like a mocking way by saying, imagine being in love with a girl who's also your partner in battle. And basically kind of said, I don't know how you could handle all of that. Like trying to get into his head, almost trying to like tempt him that his relationship with Astrid is not a good idea. Because obviously at this point, they actually are dating. So of course, like, he tries to get into his head, almost tries to convince him to break up with Astrid in a really kind of strange way. And then once Hiccup snaps at him and tells him, like, stop talking about my love life. I don't care. You're incorrect. Like, I could date whoever I want, whatever. And then at that point, Vigo genuinely looked kind of surprised that Hiccup stood up to him like that. But not only that, that's when I keep saying dagger. That's when Vigo lifted up his dagger and looked like he was about to punch Hiccup in the back. And I still don't know if that was actually his intention, because we later find out that this was all just like a trick to kill off his brother so he was able to get back the dragon eye. It's obviously long and complicated, so I don't know if this was actually his trick, because he held up the dagger, looked like it was about to right through Hiccup's back, and Astrid luckily showed up just in time to see all this happen. And then of course he tried to play it cool, saying like, he said, "Will you give us a moment?" Another weird quote, okay? Just the way he words stuff. Will you give us a moment? And so, yes. So he drops the dagger in the ocean that kind of stirs up chaos with the dragons down below. So it kind of looked like Hiccup was actually starting to trust him more. Of course he does. Of course he trusts everyone, okay? He sees the good in everyone. But then of course we find out this was all a ruse, because then we find out that he, like, once again has Astrid like in a chokehold pretty much, and then he has like the dagger, and then he wants to either kill Astrid in exchange for the dragon eye. So it keeps going back and forth here. First it looked like he wants to kill Astrid, and then Hiccup, and then Astrid, and whatever. And people of course thought he wanted to kill Hiccup mainly because because it's like one of those things where it's like, oh well, if no one can have you, well, if I can't have you, then no one can. It's like one of those things that people believe was happening. But then of course he went back to trying to kill Astrid. It is weird. Like, he only tries to kill those two. Either Hiccup or Astrid. Like, either never both or never any of the other riders. There's only those two, which I find kind of funny. So yes, yeah, that's the whole thing going on. But then of course, in a really weird turn, like, Vigo, does say like, you're going to give up your future, all the wonderful years ahead of you for that, referring to the dragon eye. But then Hiccup decides that no, it is not worth it, so he throws the dragon eye in the pit of the lava. And then Vigo so desperately runs to the dragon eye, but of course it falls into the lava. He gets really frustrated, but then the rocks around him break, and then you see like a look of terror on his face as he falls down. And as he falls in the lava, we hear him screaming Hiccup's name, which for some reason is really funny to me. I don't know why it's funny, but it is. And he falls screaming his name. But then of course Hiccup actually looks like he runs to him, like out of instinct. He runs to him, looks really sad that he died, and then he says that it didn't have to end this way. So, a very sad ending for a story, right? Wrong. So of course, as you guys know, no, Vigo does not die. He comes back, ladies and gentlemen, which I am very excited about, because like, I love it. I love it. So in case you guys don't know, Race to the Edge was originally supposed to only have 4 seasons. That's why it kind of had like a somewhat satisfying ending, but then it actually got greenlit for 2 more seasons. And I tell you guys, for a show that kind of like made a season out of like a whim, just kind of like working with what they got, they did a hell of a good job. Because in my personal opinion, I think the later episodes of Race to the Edge are even better than the beginning episodes. Like, honestly, like season like 4, 5, and 6 are freaking banger like they're banger seasons, guys. Like, just something about them is just so well written. And it even makes you really intrigued, especially for a kids show, which is very unexpected. But I definitely do think that it's really good. So of course, as we know, Vigo does come back, but he doesn't really come back until the 6th episode, called The Return of Thor Bonecrusher. I don't know if they did that intentionally, because of course, like, The Return of Thor Bonecrusher is like Fishslake's like alter ego that he becomes in like 2 episodes. And of course, this is the return of his ego, like his other character. But like, I don't know if that was a play on words, being like, oh yeah, it's Return to Thor Bonecrusher, but also the return of Vigo. I don't know if that's what they meant, but like, it's fun either way. That's what I like to think, because they just didn't want to spoil that Vigo returned in that episode, so they're like, the Return of Thor Bonecrusher, but also return of the best villain we've ever seen. So of course we see that he survived at the end of season 4 in the volcano, but now we see that his entire right side of his face is scarred pretty badly, and he's also blind in his eye. So again, I'm sorry that I sound like a broken record here, but even after Hiccup basically blinds him, I mean, I know he didn't do it intentionally, but even after that whole fiasco, Viggo basically takes no time to compliment Hiccup any chance he gets, either directly or indirectly. Because from when I was watching this episode, because at this point he's also teamed up with the villain Krogan and Johan, who we just found out is evil. So we see them together, and then he basically like tries to tell Krogan like, oh my god, Hiccup is extremely smart, he's quick, he's a smart kid, he's like knows what he's doing, he's smarter than you think he is. Like, he just tries to compliment him any chance he gets, to the point where Krogan even had to stop by and then say like, he basically called Hiccup Viggo's archipelago idol, because he was talking about him so much. So he even had to like tell him like, okay, you're archipelagan idol. I basically had to say like, okay, you're boosting about him so much, we get it, okay. He kind of said it in like a mocking way, which I find kind of funny. So now Viggo's last episode was the episode in season 6 called Triple Cross. So Hiccup actually doesn't speak to Viggo again until the final episode, or his final episode, which I do find kind of interesting when you think about it. Like, he never actually had a communication. Like, he knew that Viggo was alive because Astrid saw that he was in a few episodes before this, so they all knew that he was alive, but they never actually saw him since, which I find kind of interesting on the writer's part. So in his final episode, it is very Hiccup and Viggo heavy. Like, they're together this entire episode pretty much. And of course we see that they're on an island together, and then Hiccup was done with his crap, okay? He was done with Viggo's crap. He just wanted to get rid of him. He did not care anymore. He was done. So he tried to kill him with his inferno. But we then find out that Viggo actually made a replica of Hiccup's inferno. So like, he never stops thinking about this kid. So we see that happen, and the whole time Viggo is basically shouting to Hiccup, I don't want to hurt you, I don't want to hurt you, please listen to me, I need your help. But then of course Hiccup's not listening. He's like, I don't give a crap, I'm gonna kill you now and end it, I wish you died in that volcano. So very feisty right now, very feisty. I feel like this is an enemies to lovers that I have read before. So they were arguing, and then eventually they were finally like sitting down, all calm and everything. And then basically the same thing happens in season 4, where Viggo is like, please help me get rid of Johan and Krogan, and then you'll never hear from me again. And that kind of pisses me off, because like, I mean, honestly, it pisses me off that like Viggo tries this, because he's smarter than this. Like, he's smarter to think that Hiccup will actually fall for this again. But this is why Viggo thought about this, because of course the same thing happened in season 4, but we found out that he was actually betraying Hiccup the whole time, and he's like trying the same thing again pretty much. But this time Hiccup actually wasn't believing him. He was like, no, I don't trust you anymore after you did me wrong the last time. But then Viggo casually feeds Toothless a fish, and then he tells Hiccup that the fish is actually poisoned, and then this is so bad. And then he says that he would give Hiccup the antidotes if he helps him. So like, Toothless has 3 days to live pretty much, and so he basically, so like, this is already not going off to a good start, so Hiccup kind of has no choice but to help him now. So then long story short, they go into the tunnel, they try to go undercover and everything, but then of course it turns out that Viggo was actually tricking Hiccup once more. So he like punches, he freaking whams him in the stomach, and then he kind of like he presses Hiccup to his chest with like the knife against his throat, which I find kind of funny, because like, boy was so close to Viggo, like he could freaking hear his heartbeat, I swear. But they were freaking close, they were like this. But then it's actually kind of funny, because then Krogan and Johan lock Hiccup in a crate. Hiccup's looking freaking pissed as ever. Burrow is stressing. And then Krogan just decides, I'm just gonna go kill him. Because, like, why not? I have nothing better to do. We need to get him out of the way. He ruins all our plans. So yes, Krogan was about to kill Hiccup, but then Vigo actually stops him. And then he just says, like, he didn't really have a good reason. He was like, no. He was like, just don't kill him, okay? And then they kind of listened to him at first. But then, like, after a while, when they were away from Hiccup's crate, they were talking. And then Krogan was like, I'm just gonna kill him, okay? I'm just gonna kill him. But then, of course, Vigo stops him again. And then Krogan even says, why are you protecting him so much? Why are you protecting this guy, okay? Like, do you not know that he tricked you, manipulated you, ruined your tribe, killed your brother, scarred your face, blinded you, basically? But then Vigo kind of didn't really talk, and then they kind of got into a whole wham. And then eventually this part's kind of confusing, because I think we find out that this was all part of Vigo's plan. Like, Vigo and Hiccup, like, we find out that Vigo and Hiccup are actually, like, in cahoots together this whole time. I mean, he still thinks that Vigo poisoned Toothless, but, like, this whole thing about locking him up was actually part of the plan, and so luckily they kind of made up. But then when Hiccup goes to find the antidote, he sees that's not in there. Vigo walks in very winded, kind of like he looks like half dead, but then he admits that there was no antidote because there was never poison. So he never poisoned Toothless. It was all fake. It wasn't a real thing, and so that whole thing happened, okay? And then of course it was really confusing, but then Vigo actually admits through this whole thing that he would never harm such a magnificent creature, referring to Toothless. I mean, he did. he literally said in the same breath that I have hurt and killed lots of people and dragons. But yet he also says he would never hurt a magnificent creature. Like, which one is it? Like, what did you do? So I know that has nothing to do with anything. I just thought it was kind of weird rewatching this. I was kind of like, okay, like, that's weird. So yeah, they were just like, but then we see Vigo kind of step forward and notice that he has 4 arrows sticking out of his back. He was shot by 4 freaking arrows. And then Hiccup immediately, just because Hiccup's a nice guy and he's a freaking cinnamon roll pretty much, because Vigo pretty much calls him a cinnamon roll in this episode. He basically says that Hiccup is too innocent, too pure, too nice, which means he's a cinnamon roll. And of course he is, so he tries to, like, help Vigo, even though Vigo does him wrong a bunch of times. But then Vigo then says, like, get out of here, I'll fend him off. You will kill Krogan and Johan because I know you will. Which is pretty crazy. So then he basically says he'll fend him off when Hiccup leaves, and that's exactly what he did, and that is the last time we see Vigo Grimborn. Of course, the episode does end with Astrid and Hiccup actually mourning the loss of Vigo, which is surprising, because, like, they kind of had mixed feelings, I guess, about him. Because he did kind of turn nice last minute, but it was very rushed. And I know this whole last thing didn't really seem like it backed up the theory all that much, but it kind of did, because it seems like, again, this is mostly from Vigo's point of view, because Hiccup has nothing really to do with his feelings. Like, I don't think Hiccup likes Vigo, obviously. That's not part of the theory. It's more Vigo liking Hiccup. And, of course, just because he protected him doesn't mean there's any romantic interest in that part, I guess. But I don't know, it's just like they have weird chemistry in a lot of these episodes. I really can't pinpoint why, because do you guys remember that episode when Hiccup and Astrid were having that, like, fighting thing? It definitely gives off the same vibes as when Vigo and Hiccup were fighting in this episode. It gives off the same vibes. I really can't explain it. And there's also a small theory that, again, it has nothing to do with really Hiccup that much, but there's a theory where people do think that Vigo's actually alive, and I know it probably doesn't matter because, like, we never see him again, like, so, and the franchise is pretty much over, so we know that's, like, nothing's gonna happen really. But there was a really interesting theory that I did see before that, like, it was really funny. Basically, it was a theory about how, yeah, people do think that Vigo is alive, And I'm not gonna lie, the evidence is kind of compelling, because there was an episode where one of Vigo's guards were falling into the lava, but then Vigo managed to save him. And so the guard says, "I owe you my life," and then Vigo says, "Maybe someday you'll be able to repay me." But then, after we see that Vigo was shot in the back 4 times, we see him face this guard, and he has like a visible look of like a concern on his face and realization or something. I remember when I first saw that, it kind of gave me the chills, not gonna lie. So it was pretty interesting. So some people have a theory that that guard tried to repay Vigo by, you know, saving him pretty much. And then Vigo also later says that after Johan and Krogan is defeated, Hiccup will never hear from him again. And then he also says that Hiccup will kill Johan and Krogan. Like, he has full trust that he will kill him. So that explains why he basically left Hiccup to kill them, and then Vigo disappeared right after all this. Which, again, it's very compelling. I know this has nothing to do with, like, the main theory, because obviously this theory was so quick that I could just say it like that and it's over. But I just find it so interesting, the whole entire thing. But again, do I think this theory is actually true? I don't, but I do think they wrote Vigo in a very, like, intimate way with Hiccup, and I feel like they did that on purpose, because again, they wanted to show how Vigo and Hiccup are very similar in lots of ways. I don't think it's necessarily a romantic thing, but again, I kind of do get where the whole shipping of them kind of came from, because again, they had different relationships than like anyone else, pretty much. Like, any other villain really did not care about Hiccup on a personal level except for Vigo, so I find that kind of interesting. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was kind of all over the place. It wasn't as in-depth maybe as some of you guys would have liked, but it was, I don't know, I thought it was interesting to talk about, because no one on the internet has talked about this theory, and I've seen it for years. I've been seeing this theory for years, guys, and it is pretty funny, I won't lie. So let me guys know if you guys actually believe this theory, because I'm really curious. I won't judge, I'm just curious if you guys actually believe this theory. And I'm also thinking about making a video about the relationship of Dagger and Hiccup, because that's also a popular thing I've been seeing around. And no, not in a romantic sense. I just want to do a video about their bromance, okay? Just their bromance, that's all I'm asking. So if you guys enjoyed this video, I hope I'll see you guys around to check out my Hadrian Dragon playlist. I also have a 9 Realms playlist, which, like, yikes. But I guess you guys can check that out too. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.